Navigating the healthcare system can be confusing. Arranging for the care of our senior citizens can be frustrating. That's the case whether it's for loved ones or for ourselves. I know this too well. My family experienced all the phases with our parents. I'm Tom Hailey, and this is Bluegrass Region Voices and Views. My guest is DG Linton Gridley, the founder of the Aging with Grace Independent Life Club here in Lexington. There are 4 aspects to her work: the Adult Day Healthcare Center named the Fountain of Youth Clubhouse, Independence Consultation and Case Management, At-Home Health Help Services, and Home Improvements. In this conversation, you'll get to know DG, learning about her background and the journey that led her to leave her career in education to earn her master's degree in healthcare administration and then devote years to creating this much-needed resource to improve people's health and quality of life. We taped this conversation in the spa area at the Fountain of Youth Clubhouse on Allendale Drive here in Lexington. Drop in on our conversation after I've asked DG to tell us where she was born and raised.
I was born in New Albany, Indiana, and raised around there. My parents moved a lot. I've moved 18 times before I was 18 years old. And so I've lived in southern Indiana. I've lived in Louisville, Kentucky, and suburbs around Louisville. I've lived in Cincinnati. And then when I was 18 years old, I moved to New Hampshire. So I lived in New Hampshire for a number of years and attended school there at Riviera College. Now it's known as Davis College. But I didn't finish there. I majored in education and art. Let's back up a little, because I know that people are often curious about how an educator came to be in the healthcare field. So it started when I was a kid, because I spent my summers with my grandmother, and her work was going into older people's homes and doing some light nursing and some caregiving. And the government back then had a new program that paid for what she did. So she worked as a government contractor going into older people's homes, because the hope was that they could save money, keep these people out of nursing homes. So the homes that she visited were very low income, but countryside. It was rural Indiana. So it was very dear to me, because these were sweet farm people, most of them, that lived on these Scrabble farms, just trying to make do. But she was able to help them stay in their homes longer. And I also spent time with her at the senior center where she worked. She also worked at the senior center. And I remember it was at lunchtime usually that she was working there, and I helped her too. And this was every summer for a number of years. We also went to a lot of funerals. So that's how I grew up, and it just seemed normal to me to be around older people, and they loved me and I loved them, and I had a lot of relatives that were older too, of course. So that was my childhood. And then when I graduated high school, my father married a nurse, and my grandmother was nursing, and my aunt was nursing, and I thought, well, I'll become a nurse. I also had relatives that were educators, so I was on the fence, but I enrolled in nursing school. My stepmother helped me, and she helped me find a job in a nursing home, and it was a brand new nursing home, beautiful. Crystal chandeliers and marble floors. However, the people that I worked with were not beautiful. They seemed like criminals to me. I just really was aghast and just, I couldn't believe that they were so awful. They didn't actually strike the patients. Oh, back then, this was 1974. So there was no formal requirements for nurse aides in the nursing homes. You just learned on the job. So they put me with 2 seasoned nurse aides, and they were very rough with the patients. In fact, they swore at them. They used the F word and everything. And, I wasn't used to that anyway. I grew up in a pretty religious Christian environment. So that shocked me. And the patients themselves, they acted catatonic. I mean, I think they were afraid. And so they just froze and let these 2 aides do what they needed to do. And so I quit after one day. And the nursing home administrator called me the next day and she said, why did you quit? And I said, I can't work with those people. And she said, well, you should have called me. I shouldn't have to call you. And I thought, you must be a bad person. The administrator must be a bad person to have these employees and to tolerate or to not know what your employees are like, what your employees are doing. So I was totally turned off to that nursing home. But at that time, I didn't know that it was endemic. It was across the board. Most nurses, I'm not saying all, but it was definitely a major problem, especially back then. And so I changed my major. I left nursing school and enrolled in the University of Cincinnati education program. And so I got a degree in education eventually. But I started at the University of Cincinnati. Then I moved to New Hampshire and enrolled in college up there. Still didn't finish. I moved to Florida first for a year because my mother lived in Florida, but I didn't like Florida. It was too hot. And so I moved to southern Indiana near my grandmother, back to my childhood roots. And I lived with my grandmother for a time. And that wasn't ideal either. I felt like I was a burden on my grandmother. So I moved to Bloomington, Indiana. I had some friends in Bloomington, and I enrolled in school there. And that's where I graduated from Indiana University with an art education degree. After graduating from Indiana University, I married and became pregnant almost immediately. And so I didn't begin teaching right away, but I taught in church, Sunday school a lot, and I had a summer program in the area. I did some teaching in the summer for a local, I think it was run by the city, but it was in the school system. And so for the next 3 years, I didn't teach full time. But then when my youngest was he was 4. Yeah, I found a job in a daycare. I wouldn't call it teaching. Teaching is not, teaching in a school is not the same as teaching in a daycare. But I worked there for 3 years, and then I found a job teaching at Sayre School. Mm-hmm. And so that was good for me. I taught all different levels, from kindergarten to high school in the course of a day, which was interesting. Yeah. And eventually I moved into just the middle school, teaching just the middle school. And I worked there for 11 years. And I also, for 6 of those years, I directed their summer program at Sayre School. It was called Sayre Summer Safari. And I really enjoyed the challenge and the creativity and the responsibility. We had up to 200 campers each summer. And I had to create the program. I had to disassemble the current school year facility for the preschool kids, and that's the facility that we inhabited. But we had to store all her stuff away and then move in our stuff and start the program. It was a 10-week program, and it was every day, all day, from I think it was 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 at night, and I was there all day. But I needed the extra income. I had 3 sons that were eating me out of house and home and trying to get them ready for college at that time and so forth. So it was intense, but I enjoyed it. And that at that same time, my in-laws were not doing well. My father-in-law had dementia. My mother-in-law, he had taken care of her. She had always had some kind of thinking difficulty. I don't know exactly what it was because she was never diagnosed, but he had always enabled her to have a good quality of life. And when he started not being able to function, their world was falling apart, and no other family members wanted to help. My husband at that time just had another brother, so it was just him and his brother and her sister. Her sisters, they weren't able to help, and nieces and nephews and so forth. And they were up in New York, upstate New York. So I tried to help long distance. I was afraid he would kill somebody because he was still driving, and he wasn't able to drive, but she didn't drive, and so she made him drive. And she told me a story about getting into the car one day, and she handed him the keys, and he said, "What's this for?" He didn't know what a key was for. She had to tell him, "You put the key in there, and you turn it," and she directed him so he could drive her to the grocery store. They lived in a small town. There wasn't any public transportation. So I tried and tried to get help for them long distance, but it didn't work. And I just said, we have to rescue them. We have to go up there. And I communicated with the VA because he was a veteran. And they met us there one Thanksgiving. And a woman from the VA met us at their home. And of course, my mother-in-law didn't want to come with us to live in our home here. But the woman from the VA said, they had had an accident too. And they were having to go to court for the accident. And the woman from the VA knew about the accident. And so she said, you had this accident and you're going to have to go to court about the accident. And when you go to court, they will see that he's not able to drive and you don't have a license to drive. You've never driven. And so they'll probably put you both in a nursing home. The government will become your ward and declare you incompetent and put you in a nursing home. So you have that choice, or you can go with your daughter-in-law. She never liked me. And your son, and live in Kentucky. And so she didn't like either choice, but she chose to come with us. But it was funny because we packed everything up, not everything, but what they would need to come and live with us for the short term. And we were ready to get in the car, and she sat down. She said, "I'm not going. I've changed my mind. I'm not going." And my then husband said, "Oh, no, now I have to unpack all that stuff." And I said, "No, I'm sorry. I never was contrary to her or spoke against her, even though it was really difficult all through the years. I was married for 33 years at that point. I'd known him for 33 years. And I said, "I'm sorry, but you are coming with us. I don't care what you say. Let's go. Let's get in the car." And it was nighttime at that time. Well, not night quite, but it was almost dark. So we got in the car, and it's an 11-hour trip. But we started the drive, and when darkness really came, my father-in-law was in the front seat. It was a van. It was a Dodge minivan. And my father-in-law was in the front seat. My then husband was in the driving seat. And my father-in-law tries to jump out of the car because he thought we were going 70 miles an hour down the expressway. And he thought that he was driving and that the car was out of control. And so he was going to bail. And I grabbed him, and I had a teenage son with us at the time, and he grabbed him. So he didn't jump out of the car, but I said, "Let's take the next exit and buy a flashlight." And so I don't know why I thought that would help, but I thought if he could see that the gas pedal and the brake wasn't down there. And sure enough, that worked. We bought the flashlight, and he was good the rest of the trip. But there's a thing called sundowners. When people have Alzheimer's, they get very confused in the later hours of the evening. So that was what was happening. I learned a lot about Alzheimer's. I didn't know that much back then. I mean, I knew there was a thing called dementia, but I didn't know the details of it. But I learned from my father-in-law a lot. So they lived with us, and I won't go into details because it would take hours about all the events that ensued after that. But it was definitely an education. And my father-in-law, he passed away just 4 months after that. But my mother-in-law, she lived another 11 years, and she lived with us part of the time, and she lived with my then husband's brother part of the time. And so she seemed content. But when she was with us, I was not content to just sit at home with her, and she really wasn't good alone at home. It wasn't safe to leave her home alone. So I came up with the idea. Oh, back up a little bit. So after my father-in-law and mother-in-law came to live with us, that was in 2007, and I tried to keep working. I was working at the time, and I contacted the VA and got some help from the VA to come to the house while I was at work, but it wasn't enough. It was only a couple hours a day, and I was gone 8 hours, 10 hours a day. So I went back to school. I quit my job. I finished out that school year. I finished out that summer program. And my father-in-law, like I said, he passed away in April. And my mother-in-law, she went to live with my brother-in-law. And so that freed me up. And my youngest son, he was getting ready for college. So that freed me up to go back to school. I quit my job at Sayre School and went back to school at the University of Cincinnati and got a degree, earned a degree in healthcare administration, a master's degree, which was a challenge at 52 years old. But I did pay a tutor to help me with statistics. But aside from that, I didn't need any help, and I graduated with I can't remember, was it a 3.5 GPA? I only got one B through that. So my brain was still working. And it's good to challenge our brains, I've learned, and that was a big challenge. So that was good for me at that time. And with my degree, I felt, well, I wanted to learn if the healthcare system, because I floundered. When I was trying to care for my in-laws, I didn't know where to go or who to ask for help, what was best, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I didn't know. So I called the senior center, I called the university, I called everybody that I thought would help me, and there wasn't much help, really. I got conflicting advice, and it was just very difficult. And so I wondered, is it just me, or is it a setup? Is our system flawed that way? And I learned it's flawed that way. It's not just me, it's everybody that's suffering this way. And to me, that just seemed like a travesty. I mean, even now, it makes me feel like crying that all these people are out there suffering, trying to help, trying to get help. And it's like being a pinball, you're just helpless, going here, there, and everywhere, and wasting a lot of time and energy
and money
and getting frustrated. And so I learned that people need help, and it's not out there. Our system isn't set up that way. And so we have it better than most areas here in Lexington. And even then, it's not great because we just don't have the knowledge. We don't have the plan that we all need to have for when someone experiences dementia or experiences a chronic illness. So one of the major things that I learned is that our healthcare system is in silos. So when I discovered my mother-in-law's foot was rotting off, literally. She had peripheral artery disease, and the blood wasn't getting to her foot, and she was hiding it. She didn't want anybody to know it. But anyway, I took her to a doctor, and that doctor was affiliated with the St. Joseph healthcare system. But then I took her for flu shots to a doctor that was affiliated with the University of Kentucky healthcare system. And then I took her for, or was it my father-in-law? Well, my father-in-law, I took him to the VA. Of course, that's another system. And at one point, I went to the Baptist healthcare system. I can't remember what it was for. So none of those healthcare systems talk to each other. Those are the 4 major ones here in Lexington. And that meant that what one doctor saw wasn't communicated to what the other doctor saw, and they all saw different things. And I would have benefited from knowing that they didn't communicate with one another, because for some reason I thought that they all had a plan for my mother-in-law's leg. Yeah. But we ended up at Good Sam for the most part. Oh, and another thing, we couldn't get her medical records. My mother-in-law didn't know who her doctor was up in New York. And so we couldn't get her medical records to know what had been going on. And this wound looked like it had been there a long, long time. But anyway, unfortunately, her leg was amputated because it turned gangrene.
While she lived with you?
Well, they wanted to amputate it while she lived with me, but she refused, and my brother-in-law came down and took her up to Indianapolis, and it was amputated there. So I don't know if it could have been prevented if we had known to stay with one healthcare system and listen to what they were saying or not. I don't know. But she was not a compliant patient either. They told her not to touch the dressings. They would bind her leg. They would bind her leg during the day, and they would say, come back in 2 days, and she would take the dressings off at night. So that happened repeatedly, and they would tell her, stay off of your leg, keep your leg elevated. She wouldn't do that either. She wanted to walk. She paced constantly. So it was a combination of everything, and so that was really sad, that she had to have her leg amputated. But I learned that it's not just us that has experienced this kind of thing. And I also learned when I was studying for my master's degree that hospitals have major infection rates, and they get sued for their infections, but actually the number of patients that die from infections is much greater than the lawsuits that they have. They don't have to pay. They usually settle out of court. And you're always hearing, well, healthcare costs are so high because physicians have to pay these high insurance. What's it called?
Premium.
But it's a special name for what not liability insurance, not just liability, I think. But anyway, they have to pay a really high premium, and that's why your healthcare costs are so great. Well, I don't know what we have to pay a pretty high liability insurance rate too, but I really don't think that's the reason that they charge so much, because the lawsuits are pretty low. Most cases don't go to court. And that made me sad too, because you only have a year to sue the hospital or the doctor. And most people are in recovery for a year from a serious illness. It takes more than a year to just be able to think. So a year is not very long to be able to file a lawsuit. And I learned many other things. Anyway, I learned that we're in trouble. We need help.
That's what inspired you to begin aging with Grace.
I was thinking all through it that I would become a nursing home administrator and be a really good one and provide my nursing home would provide better care than the other ones. But through my education, I learned that there's really no hope for that form of care because you can't hire enough people. Most nursing homes are for-profit. I don't know if people realize that. There are a few nonprofits, and I think those are better. But the for-profits, in order to make a profit, they can't hire the number of staff that they need to provide the care that they need. And so there's a high turnover. And when there's a high turnover, the staff doesn't know what they're doing. And, it's just a flawed system because they can't have enough people working to pay the bills. And so people quit all the time. The workload is incredible. They work so hard, those nurses' aides. And the nurses themselves have a lot of paperwork to do, so they're not the ones doing the hands-on, it's the nurses' aides. And with that high turnover, it's just not good for the patients. Nobody knows the patient that well. They can't spend that much time with them either because they have to move on to the next patient. They only have a allotted number of minutes to spend with each patient. And so I decided not to become a nursing home administrator. I decided that maybe there's something else, a new form of care. And I knew about home care. Like I said, my grandmother went to people's homes and helped them. And so I like that. But the problem with the home care is there's no socialization and people are still so isolated. And it's not really nursing, full-time nursing care. Like my grandmother just went in for an hour really and did wound treatment or whatever, and then she left. And that's still the way it is for nursing care. The nurses just go into the home and do the procedure and then leave. It's not for hours and hours. So there's still a need for the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry and the trips to the grocery store and the trips to the doctor. So home care, that's called non-medical home care. I still thought that was flawed because of the lack of oversight. If I was going to offer home care, I wanted at that time I was thinking I'd want a camera in the home, or I'd want to be there in the home supervising to make sure that the care was good, because you never know what people are going to be like alone when they're alone. They can be wonderful when they're being watched, but to be alone in the home with a vulnerable adult, that didn't sit right with me. So after I earned my master's in healthcare administration, I obtained a job with a daycare. I don't like that moniker, daycare. It's really a day healthcare center, but it was it's not around any longer. It went out of business, but it had a clientele of about 20 people a day, and I did my fellowship there. I worked there for 6 months, I think it was. I can't remember. And I thought, this could be good. This could be nice. I didn't think that particular facility was very nice, but I like it was like a senior center, but with nursing services and food and transportation. And I thought, well, this could be nice. This might be the answer, because people could come there during the day and then get a little care at home, the non-medical piece at home. And so I learned that I needed a certificate of need to be able to open an adult day health care center. And the staff there encouraged me, by the way. I don't think I would have done it without their encouragement, but they said, you can do this. You have a degree and you've been a teacher, and so you're good with people. You should do this. I didn't have any money, and I knew it would take a lot of money. And one of the nurses there, she said, "Oh, I have a wealthy uncle. He might invest in it." And I thought, well, if not her uncle, maybe somebody else, would like to become an investor. And so I decided to just start learning and trying to figure out how I could open one and how to get a certificate of need. So for the next 5 years, that's what I did. I got a certificate of need, which takes lawyers that specialize in certificates of need. By the way, I did a podcast just on the certificate of need.
I'll listen to that. Yeah.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd encourage people to listen to it because a lot of people don't know that nursing homes and adult day centers and some other healthcare facilities hospitals have to have a certificate of need. And then I worked to get the money to fund opening and to find a place to open, and all that took 5 years from graduation time and working at the adult day healthcare center that inspired me to actually opening. So I just wanted an adult day healthcare center. I really didn't want to do any of the other pieces. I didn't want to do the non-medical at-home health help. I didn't want to do the case management. I didn't want to do the home improvements. I just wanted to do the adult day healthcare center. However, we did not attract enough members to make it financially doable. So the place I first opened, I loved it. It was gorgeous. I completely remodeled it with the landlord and spent a ton of money, thousands and thousands of my dollars that I never got back. Mm. It was beautiful, but it could accommodate 40 people, and we only attracted 10. Mm. So had to downsize into a facility that could accommodate 20 people, and again, we only attracted 10. So couldn't make a go of it there either. The rent was too much. So we relocated here, and we've been here for 6 years, and this facility can accommodate 10 people, and we only have 4 members. Mm. So I still haven't fulfilled my dream. But because we couldn't attract the people that we needed to make the adult day healthcare center viable, we started doing home care. And that went great guns. It's expanding exponentially. It's just, there's such a demand for it. That's what people like. They like to have one-on-one help in their home. And I appreciate that. I used their service for my mother-in-law when I was working, and she would come to live with me while I was trying to get the adult day healthcare center off the ground. I remember I said she lived with me and she lived with my brother. Well, she lived with me for a year while I was working to get the adult day healthcare center off the ground, and I had another job too. And so I hired another company to come in and provide services for her. And it was good, except it was very unreliable. Some days the workers didn't show up when they were supposed to, and they changed out people a lot, and I didn't like that. I wanted somebody consistent for my mother-in-law. Anyway, I think that the problem of people not wanting to come to an adult day healthcare center stems from the fact that people don't know about adult day healthcare centers, first of all. But even if they do, they usually know about it because the younger mentally and physically challenged people go there. It's been a popular place for children who age out of the special education school system. Their parents still work, and so when they're 18, 19, 20, and they finish high school special education, they go to an adult day healthcare center program. And that there are several of those in Lexington, and we specialize in the 50 plus population. We don't have any younger mentally or physically challenged, and we don't discriminate. If somebody wanted to come here that's younger, we would allow that, of course, but our programming is totally tailored to older people. Right. And if you go to those other adult day healthcare centers for the younger people, They're mentally, and they have older people that go there too, but their program resembles school. Their program is tailored for that population. We have many have had, not right now, we only have 4, but since 2015, we've had many people with dementia. And that's a special kind of training that our staff needs to be able to take care of the people with dementia well and to give them the best quality of life. I advertise that we're for people 50 plus.
Sure. Now, so you have members here, but then you say, you mentioned that you do in-home care. Are there more people getting in-home care than those members you have here?
Oh,
I
my
thought
goodness.
That was what you were
yes.
saying. But
we have 100, and it varies. 103. We've had 118. I think it's the max we've had, but it goes up and down.
Okay.
But we hover around 100 people that we're helping in the home.
Do you think that eventually some of those 100 or so people might become members here and be here during the day? Or
we have invited them. A lot of them live in very rural areas. They don't live near the clubhouse, and they don't want to spend an hour on a bus. So I understand that. And there are other adult day centers that our members that we're helping at home attend that aren't ours. But currently, we only have one member that's getting help at home and also coming to the clubhouse. But yes, that's a possibility.
Okay. What would you say is the mission and the vision statement of this facility here?
Well, the whole company's mission statement is to improve our members' health and quality of life. And actually, the mission statement reads, our mission is to improve your health and quality of life, because we don't want to just improve our members, our clients' health and quality of life. We want to improve our employees' health and quality of life. We want to improve the community's health and quality of life. And so we have lunch and learns every Tuesday, every second Tuesday. It's a free lunch and learn every Tuesday on the second Tuesday of the month at 12 o'clock. And we do need an RSVP because we have to order lunch. But they can just text me to 859-539-2147 and say that they're coming, and that's fine. They can come to our lunch and learn. It varies every month. Last month, the topic was, or this month rather, the topic was moving. Last month, the topic was wound care. And we're going to have a topic on transportation and financial planning and final arrangement planning. We've got all kinds of topics that help people prepare and know what they need to know to live the best life possible.
So the people that come in for that audience are more than just the members?
Oh, sure. Here. It's our community.
Okay.
And our employees come to those too.
Sure. Okay. And could you describe what a typical day is like, or a typical week?
I would love to. Yeah. I think our program is ideal. At least it's what I would like. And I'm planning on being here someday as a member. My grandmother had dementia, Alzheimer's, and it often skips a generation. And everybody tells me I'm like my grandmother, so we'll see. But a typical day, we're only open from 10 until 4. And so if somebody comes first thing in the morning, they've probably eaten a little bit, but if not, we ask them if they would like something to eat. And for sure, we give them something to drink, whether they ask for it or not. And all day long, people have something in front of them to drink because hydration is often a challenge. As people get older, we lose our sense of thirst. We're not thirsty, and so it's good to offer drinks constantly. And we do a mental activity the first thing. We have club meetings. We call them club meetings. And it's a different club meeting in the morning, but every Monday morning we have the same club meeting. And we have gardening club, we have book club, we have board game club, we used to have sporting club, and serving our military everyday club. We called it Some Club. So we would make cards. There's a place here in town called Military Missions. And so once a week we would make cards and take it over to them. And we used to have a club we change our club meetings up depending on our members. Oh, art club, that's a good one. We do arts and crafts once a week, usually more, because even with gardening club, for example, that can be a craft. Mm-hmm. And of course we have bingo once a week. That's a bingo club. And we do games in the afternoon. So a typical day is the club meeting and then a group exercise, and that's led by the club planner. She gets everybody together, and we put on a YouTube video or a CD that's specific for exercise. And every day's exercise is tailored too. So Monday is called Dance Club, and we do all of our exercises in a chair. It's amazing how much exercise you can get from a chair, but for safety, we stay in our chairs, and we put on dance music, and we dance. We ask our members, what's your favorite song to dance to, or what's your favorite song? And so we move to the tune in our chairs, and that goes on for 40 minutes. That's Mondays. Tuesdays are we call them Move to Improve times. So on Tuesdays, our Move to Improve is a strength training CD with a really incredible woman named Sunshine. She's on the beach, and she leads us in exercise. And then on Wednesdays, we do mobility exercises, because as we get older, we lose our flexibility. And it's important to do mobility every day, really, but we teach people how to do mobility, and hopefully they'll do it every day. And on Thursdays, we do the strength training again, because with strength training, you're supposed to miss a day so your muscles recover. And then on Friday, we do balance training. And I made a video just for that. And we put that on, and just follow my lead on the club planner. She helps people do it correctly and safely. But that's the morning Move to Improve. But in general, we eat, we have a mental activity, we have a physical activity, then we eat, and we have another mental activity, another physical activity, and then we eat and we all go home. In the afternoon, the club meetings are different, and the physical activities are more like games to mix it up and keep it fun. So we play kickball, believe it or not. We make a circle and kick the ball to one another, can't use hands. And we play basketball. We put a basket on the floor, and you can bounce it in or you can just chuck it in. And we also play balloon volleyball, and we play cornhole, and we do mind-body exercises like the hokey pokey and the chicken dance. So each day it's something different. And we also have this thing that we call bee bucks. So when people participate, they get a bee buck, and they collect these bee bucks. And at the end of the month, we have an auction, and we get local businesses or just our participants' families donate prizes for people to win in the auction. And that makes it fun. And so every day is lively. We also like to have guest speakers. For Tea and a Tale time especially, we enjoy having anybody come and tell us a joke or a funny story. That's what Tea and a Tale time's about. It's at the end of the day. And so it's really fun to have a local pastor or a retired school teacher or somebody come in and visit with us. And pets are always fun to come and visit with us too. Okay. Yeah. And children.
You have a spa type. We're sitting right now in what looks like a spa
yes,
area.
This is our spa. I spent $57,000 on it 2 years ago. This jacuzzi tub alone cost $7,000 something. Wow. But it's really cool. It's got jets and colored lights, and It even has an aromatherapy feature to it.
Okay.
And we can provide all kinds of personal care here.
Yeah.
We have a shampoo sink, you see, and we do nails, pedis and manis,
Yeah.
and facials. But the state requires that we have a medical treatment room, and it has to be a specific size and it has to have specific features. So we've incorporated that too, of course. And all of our medical procedures are done in here. We can do wound care. We can do oxygen management for people with emphysema. We can do catheter care. We can do many of the same things that a nursing home does, but here.
Okay. What's it like trying to find employees or volunteers? Is that challenging? Or?
We have one wonderful volunteer right now. We love volunteers. Pat Nussbaum is our wonderful volunteer, and she comes all the way from Nicholasville once a week to help us out. So anybody that wants to volunteer, we're happy to have volunteers. I encourage everybody, especially people that don't have family, that are proactive and caring and aware of what can happen as people get older, to join a health club for seniors. And to my knowledge, there isn't anything like us that I'm aware of that invites people to make a plan. And of course, for the plan to work, we have to see people, we have to be in contact with them. So I'm hoping, through volunteering or through a check-in, it's only $16 an hour for people to come here. There is a membership fee. It's $120 a year, and that pays for the wellness map, because that's a lot of work for the nurse to put together. But then it's only $16 an hour or $86 a day, and that pays for meals. The $16 doesn't pay for the meals, but $86 a day is way cheaper than a nursing home. And so I think it's going to become the preferred vehicle for helping people age well. And I think that everybody needs to join us.
So that was what I wanted to ask you, is so we're coming up on our hour here. Let's close with asking you, what's next for Aging with Grace? Where do you see this
I
going?
want to franchise.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm working now to create manuals for all the employees, and then we'll package it. Might have to enlist the help of a franchise company. And then I want to open our first one in Florida. I want to personally buy the franchise for Florida and use it as a trial run and see how that goes.
Wonderful. Wow. Well, we've talked about a lot. Before we get to Bluegrass Region highlights, which is how I always close my podcast, is there anything else that you'd like to mention that I have failed to bring up here?
Just that, people who have a positive attitude about aging age well. The statistics show. And so I would like to encourage everyone to try to have a positive attitude about aging. Don't believe what you've heard. Don't make it a self-fulfilling prophecy, because we've never been old before. You've heard from people that are older, and perhaps they said things that were negative that stuck in your mind, and so you think that it's going to be a negative thing. But aging doesn't have to be a negative thing. It does take some work, some effort, learning and doing to age well, but I encourage everybody to do that.
Great. I'm 76, by the way, but
well,
I only
I'm
feel
going
like
to be.
I'm 75. So
You're doing
kidding.
great. You're doing a lot of the things that I encourage people to do. You're challenging your mind. You're active. I hope you're exercising regularly. So good for you. And that's what it takes. We need to eat well, exercise. It's a lot, I know, but hey, what's more important? Don't you want to be around to offer the world what you have to offer, and grandchildren or passion or whatever float your boat. It's good to be alive. Life is good.
Well, this ends with my two always ending questions here that I call Bluegrass Region highlights. So, what is one of your favorite locally owned coffee shops or restaurants?
Osaka.
Tell us.
Japanese restaurant.
Okay.
Well, there's one off of Boston Road on Dillon Place next to Starbucks, and that's their original, and it's owned by Ivan Lin and Sue Chen, and they're just the sweetest people. And the Japanese culture reveres older people. And so when I go to eat there with my Michael, they're so good to us, and they just make us feel so welcome. And they've done really well because their Japanese food is just the best. And so they've opened one out Leestown Road in the Masterson Station area, and they've opened one in Hamburg.
Wow.
Yeah. And I love them all. But I usually go to the original because it's the original, and it's closer to where I live.
Osaka.
Osaka.
Right. There'll be a link in the show notes. And then finally, what is a local venue or activity that you would take an out-of-town guest to show off our local culture?
Bluegrass Bites.
Bluegrass Bites, B-I-T-E-S. Sorry, at first I heard bikes, but it's bites.
Yeah, bites.
Tell us about that.
It's a food tour. It's a historical food tour.
Who leads that?
Her name's escaping me.
It's escaping me too. I can see her, but I can't think of her
Right,
name.
same here. But she's fabulous. However, when I went on the tour, she wasn't the one leading it. She has other people leading the various tours, but it was great. And it's a good way to get to know the area, and I think it's wheelchair accessible, the one we went on.
Well, DG, thank you so much for being a guest here on Bluegrass Region Voices and Views. I have studied your website. I've listened to a number of your podcasts.
Thank you.
Tell our listeners about your podcast where they can learn even more about what's going on.
Right. That's another educational tool that people can access to learn about getting older. Getting older is complicated. And thank you so much for the privilege and honor of joining you today, Tom.
Sure.
I've really appreciated you. And I'm sorry you're probably going to have to edit a lot of this. But I do ramble on. And my podcast is called Aging with Grace. Nothing else after that. There's other podcasts out there that are Aging with Grace 50 plus, or Aging with Grace and Beauty, or Aging with Grace and Style, or whatever. But mine is just Aging with Grace, and I've been doing it for 4 years now, I think. I used to do it weekly, but with running this business and trying to franchise, it's monthly now. I think I have a lot to offer because I've learned things that I wish I had known when I was taking care of my in-laws, and I try to share all that on the podcast to help people age with grace.
Well, you've done it very well. I've listened to a number of your episodes, including your most recent one, which is about moving, and which is, my wife and I have been in the same house for 41 years. So
that's incredible.
As I was listening to that, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I think we're just going to stay where we are.
Well, we're all about aging in place, so I appreciate that, and you can do that. It's not a problem. Unless you live in a rural area. And that was in one of my podcasts too. I encourage people that live way out where transportation is not accessible to move to a community like Lexington where they can get transportation, because it's really hard to have good health and quality of life without transportation.
Sure. You need to be close to the doctors and close to the hospitals and all of that.
And food.
And food, yeah. Very good. Well, again, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you at the next Lexington Podcasters Meetup, which is where we met.
Yes, I'm so glad we met, Tom.
Great, thank you.
We'll continue to see one another there, if nowhere else.
And age with grace.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In this conversation, we focused on getting to know DG and learning about the Clubhouse, but there is so much more. Dropping by for one of their Lunch and Learn programs would be a great way to discover how the Aging with Grace programs can help you. While there, you can learn more about the at-home health and the home improvements parts of her program, along with independence, consultation, and case management. Begin by studying their website. It's at www.agingwithgraceinfo.org. Now is the time to begin planning for the future. Pictures, links, and contact information for DG and her staff are in the show notes on my website at bluegrassregionvoicesandviews.com/clubhouse. Thanks for listening.